Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of 10 Minute Marvel. I'm your host Petter, and today on 10 Minute Marvel we're going to be talking about She-Hulk episode 2, plus we have some Fantastic Four news. But before I get to all of that, I just want to thank you all for listening. I hope that you are enjoying this podcast. If you are, please consider subscribing, sharing it with your friends, or leaving a rating and review. You can find the podcast over on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify. So news-wise, like I said, we're starting to get some Fantastic Four news at this point with, I believe, Marvel being down to their final 4 people for potentially Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards. That does seem to imply, if they have 4 people in the running, that John Krasinski was just brought in for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness versus being a recurring role of, Reed Richards. I don't think that they would be doing such an extensive search, if they thought that he was going to come back and be in this role long term. So that seems like it was something that was done for the fans. We also have Matt Shakman, who was the director for WandaVision. He is looking to be the new director for the Fantastic Four film, which to me is a good sign. This potentially leads us more towards that sitcom vibe of things. Matt Shakman was on a sitcom, I forget which one, as well as then obviously the WandaVision stuff is very sitcom-y, very period piecey, which I don't necessarily think that they're going to set the Fantastic Four back in time. I know there has been some talk or rumors about that. I tend not to think that's going to happen just because it won't make that much sense for the MCU historically, but it'll be interesting to see how they work with it. There was one theory that I've heard recently that I really like the idea for. And this is the idea of, the Fantastic Four often deal with like the negative zone, the quantum realm, things like that. So what if they are from the past? What if they are from the 1960s? They have an established family, the established characters. We don't need the origin story, but they have been trapped, say, in the realm or in the city within the quantum realm. What if that maybe isn't so much a city as a machine that Reed Richards had built, and now they can come out of the quantum realm into our current time frame, and things are going to be so incredibly different. And you don't have to have them be super old or anything like that, because in the quantum realm, time works differently. I thought that was a really clever idea. But to get back to the casting for a second here, because I failed to mention part of it, one of the things is that one of the actors to potentially play Mr. Fantastic is a Star Wars alum. Now, maybe actively doing something in Star Wars, but has been or is a name that you would recognize from Star Wars franchise. This could be show, could be movie, anything like that. The 2 people that immediately popped in my head for they would make a really good Mr. Fantastic are Oscar Isaacs. He's already Moon Knight. And then Alden Ehrenreich. And he is going to be in Ironheart. So he was young Han Solo. So that kind of takes 2 of the bigger names out of there. You have Adam Driver, or you have, forget the actor who plays Hux. I think he could make a decent Mr. Fantastic. I don't really see Adam Driver in that role. His personality and look just don't really mesh with what I see for a Mr. Fantastic. I could maybe see him being a decent villain for the Fantastic Four, or showing up in the MCU in some other way, but I don't really see him as Mr. Fantastic. But let me know who you would like to see as Mr. Fantastic. If it's not going to be John Krasinski, who would be your choice? And now let's get on to talking about She-Hulk. She-Hulk, which the first episode, as I talked about, that one is the origin story. I really wish they had dropped 2 episodes at the same time. Now having seen this newest one, I still believe that. I would really like to have seen them drop the 2 episodes at once, because this was a really fun episode. To have She-Hulk at the end of episode 1, Hulk out in the courtroom, and that being what sways the jury, gets her case thrown out, mistrial, because of her saving the jury, and then getting hired by the exact same company that got her case thrown out to start this superhuman division, to be the face of it, not as Jen Walters though, but as She-Hulk. I think that's a really good way to kind of handle this. especially then with her first case being, well, Emil Blonsky, Abomination, and his upcoming parole hearing. And Tim Roth just nails it. He is great in the role as Abomination. Everything just works really well for that character. And I kind of like the fact that he definitely seems a little bit older. Like, Smart Hulk does at times seem a little bit older, but not to the extent that Emil Blonsky seems like he's aged. Plus then there's a whole bunch of mystery as to like, okay, why is this such a big deal now? Why are they bringing in the cousin of the Hulk who Blonsky clearly has had his issues with in the past? Why is she coming in to be the representative, to be the lawyer in this parole hearing, most likely to help support the case that he really has changed? But why do they want that? And the most likely answer is, well, he is going to be part of the Thunderbolts. He might even be kind of on the leadership side of the Thunderbolts, which, I mean, I could see making sense, especially since Thunderbolt Ross, the actor, has passed away, which means that now that character, that specific role is off the table and needs to be twisted or changed up a little bit. But I do want to talk a little bit too about the tone of She-Hulk and then end with talking about Banner. But the tone of She-Hulk, I think they've done a really solid job with it. At this point in time, it hasn't become too goofy. There are definitely some weird things out there in the story, but they haven't gone too far off the deep end. And we've seen in some of the trailers, like, we're going to start to see a whole lot of different superpowered people, a whole lot of different weird superpowers. And I think it's a good thing to build towards that. I think it would just be too much of a shock, too much of a surprise for a lot of people if it jumped straight into that. But then let's talk about Banner, because, well, where is Banner going and why is Banner going? This is just a continuation kind of what we talked about, or I talked about last time, with what did the courier ship want with Bruce? Now Bruce is on the courier ship, so where is he going? Most likely back to Sakaar. For what reason? This still potentially can set up something like a World War Hulk, especially if they bring in his son, Scar, as a movie character and they explain that somehow. I mean, there is the period of time where Hulk was in control on Sakaar, and while I don't think we're necessarily going to see World War Hulk with the Hulk being the bad guy, Scar potentially could be, or this could even be a little bit of like a Back to the Future 2, where the kid is an issue, and so they are bringing Hulk back to try and get the kid under control. But let me know your thoughts. What do you think is going to happen? What do you think Hulk is going off to do, and how are you enjoying the tone of this show? You can let me know your thoughts over on Twitter, tweet them to me at Thescando, or with hashtag 10MinMarvel, or you can leave a comment over on nerdologist.com. Thank you again so much for listening. Like I said at the beginning, there are a few ways you can help support the podcast, but we also have a Patreon, patreon.com/nerdologists. The funds there go to help improve the quality of this podcast, as well as the Malts and Meeples YouTube channel and nerdologist.com website. But with that, I will see you next time.